New Orleans Saints lose to the Las Vegas Raiders 25-10. Darren Rizzi burned in all caps, so you know it's real. Chances at head coach. This is After Further Review with Matt Moscona. I love the intro song. Love the intro song. I thought about making it my ringtone, but it is what it is. So today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm filming this on New Year's Eve. All right, I'm filming this on the last day of 2024. 2025 is going to be a real one. I'm excited. We're going to be doing some great things in 2025. I'll have some information in the videos coming up. Some channel updates, if you will. Updates on the Skrmetta verse and what we have going on, what we have in the pipeline. So let's get right to the video, shall we?
A lot to get to, and the thing that I probably want to talk about least is the Saints losing 25-10 to the Raiders yesterday. So we're going to go ahead and start with that just to get it out of the way. And there's not really much I can say about the game. It's just kind of what was reaffirmed.
All right, I got a question. I have a question because I don't listen to ESPN 104.5. I don't live in Baton Rouge, so I don't know what they talk about for 3 hours. But this young hombre right here, he said, like, let's just get it out of the way so we can talk about other stuff. What else do they talk about? Let me know in the comments below. Do they talk about, like, LSU basketball? They break down, like, LSU baseball recruiting? Or, like, what? I know they're not talking about the Pelicans. So what else do they actually talk about? Do they talk about, like, national stories? Do they talk about, like, the NFL playoffs or, like, the MVP race or stuff? Or this is a legitimate question. I really want to know. So someone who tunes in, let me know what this cat fills the airwaves with. If it's not Saints and Pelicans, and what do they actually talk about
After the loss? If you want some thoughts on the game, I have a few here. It started kind of weird because we had talked about the Raiders not being able to finish drives on Friday when we gave the prediction. They didn't be able to finish drives. You could really see it in their point differential between them and their opponents.
Yeah, because they're ass. Like the Raiders, yes, correct. The Raiders do have a difficult time finishing drives. They also have a difficult time putting drives together. They also have a difficult time stopping the other team. So do the Saints. Spoiler alert, so do the Giants, so do the Patriots. These are all like the worst teams in the NFL. So yes, the worst teams all are absolutely going to be those that have trouble doing that. I was surprised, though, with the Raiders, where like, the first drive kind of was going how I thought it was going to go. I bet on first drive punt for both teams. And when the Raiders looked like they were going 3 and out on the Brian Rizzis sack, I was like, all right, well, this will be a tough one. And if you think about that first drive, insane drive, 3 and out, sack, penalty, drive continues. Then you get a 17-play, 10-minute drive, touchdown, oops, LOL, called back on the one now, run, run, sack, field goal from the 25. So all in the same drive, you had a 3 and out, a touchdown, a goal line stand, and like a 35-yard field goal. Oh, and it took 17 minutes and 10 minutes, or 17 plays in 10 minutes. Insane.
And the Raiders proceeded to just take the ball and march it right down the field on the opening drive of the ball game, dinking and dunking, converting every third down that they could. It was quite demoralizing if you were the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah.
There's a touchdown that looks like it's a touchdown, but it's ultimately called back because the runner's knee was down, at the half-yard line or whatnot. And then the Saints get the goal line stand, and it was awesome. It was like, okay, yeah, that's exactly what you thought. And it's what you've seen from the Saints a little bit in general this season is yards, but they squeezed tightly in the red zone. And they did it at that moment. Cam Jordan had a tackle for a loss. He had a sack on that goal line stand. It was awesome. And they hold him to a field goal. They end up taking a 7-3 lead, hold him to another field goal at 7-6. But all the while, you could see little chinks in the armor on the Saints defense that ultimately just created a bigger problem. And it's not chinks in the armor or cracks in the armor, if you will, that we hadn't seen before with the New Orleans Saints this season. In fact, we've seen them a lot. This team is not good at tackling. They're actually quite bad at it. And you saw that plenty on Sunday. Missed tackle after missed tackle after missed tackle.
Yeah, again, like this is the part of the season where there's one game left. So if you are the 32nd defense in the NFL or the 31st defense in the NFL or the 30th run defense or whatever, and you show that should not be a surprise to anybody. And that should be expected because that is who you are. So the Saints being relatively porous on the ground against the Raiders, yeah, that's par for the course. So like coming out of that game being like, yeah, we just couldn't stop the run. It's like, yeah, no shit. We haven't stopped the run for 17 weeks. Yes.
Tackle that also helped extend the drives. The Raiders were 10 of 18 on third down. So while you got that goal line stand on the first drive, you saw the tone set by Las Vegas.
Well, it's also easier. The red zone. Here's another like betting tip for you. When you are watching teams with bad quarterbacks or bad offenses, it usually is good to take like over 3.5 field goals or over 1.5 field goals for the individual field goal or whatever, or first drive field goal, stuff like that. Because the red zone is very difficult for teams, and we saw that with the Saints last year. The Saints were terrible in the red zone. Pete Carmichael couldn't figure it out. But like red zone's hard to operate, obviously, because there's much less room for the offense, and the defense doesn't have to worry about that much space. So the defense can kind of play in a box versus having to play the entire field. So the red zone's hard. I think the red zone is usually more of a breakdown on the offense than it is like the defense being a good red zone defense. Some defenses are, but I think usually like bad quarterbacks or bad offenses, they do have a difficult time operating in the red zone.
Where you weren't going to be able to get them off the field on third down. So ultimately, that is your grand undoing defensively in this ball game, and it totals up to the Vegas Raiders with almost 38 minutes time of possession. They dominated this game. Like make no mistake, Raiders dominated the New Orleans Saints on Sunday.
The Raiders absolutely dominated. The Raiders absolutely did what they wanted offensively to the Saints defense, which is sad, which is pathetic. I mean, the fact that Amir Abdul and Aiden O'Connell were completely unstoppable. Like if the Raiders wanted to, they could have held the ball. If the field was infinite, they could have just ran the ball 100 times and they would have never ever given the ball up. They would have just ran it and ran it and ran. I mean, there was 3rd and 7s, 3rd and 8s, 3rd and 5s. They all converted with runs. And when you do that, you take so much pressure off O'Connell and you take so much pressure off the offense. And I mean, the defense, it's been the same story, but yeah, man, and that's how you end up with a discrepancy of 36 minutes time possession to 17 or whatever it was. Like that's how you end up with the same thing with the Chiefs, same thing with the Chargers, like same thing with the Eagles. All these games are the same. Can't stop the run. The opponent has doubled plays, has 15 minutes extra time possession, and when that all happens, very hard to win a football game.
Completely controlled the football game. Offensively, there were bright spots in the first half. You look at Spencer Rattler at halftime. He went out there and played one of the best halves you could have asked for.
Yeah, at halftime, he was balling. I retweeted something that said, that showed his stats. I mean, he was lighting it up in the first half. No doubt about it.
Easily the best half of football he's played in the NFL. 10 of 12, just over 130 yards, the touchdown, no interceptions. One of his incompletions was a throwaway when he was leading another great 2-minute drive that allowed the Saints to kick the field goal and cut the lead from 13-7 to 13-10 going in. And it was just like, okay, he's turning the corner. Made a lot of really impressive throws into tight windows. You saw Clyde Edwards-Helaire make his Saints debut, and that was awesome to see. And Clyde ended up with about, 30 yards from scrimmage. He ran the ball well at times, caught the ball in the backfield, everything Clyde can do, and it'd be interesting to see what that turns into for him. Hopefully you get to see him plenty more in Week 18 against the Bucs, so he can get tape out there. Maybe his next opportunity is with the Saints, potentially long-term. Maybe it's somewhere else.
I mean, I think he looked good. I think he offered the Saints. He showed me, I think he's a better, if you combined Jordan Mims, Kendra Miller, and Jamal Williams, you would get Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He kind of does what none of those guys do. like they all have one thing they're good at, but they can't do other stuff. And like Jamal Williams is good at pass blocking. He is horrible at getting more than 2 yards a carry. Kendra Miller is dynamic, but he can't pass block. Jordan Mims can catch, but he can't run, whatever. And CEH can kind of do it all. So, yeah, I mean, I would elevate him, as sad as it is, I would elevate him now to the backup. I would go, if Alvin was healthy, I would roll out Alvin as the 1 and CEH as the 2.
But it was great to see Clyde get back out there on the field after everything that he's been through with the mental health and injuries and all of that he's been so open about this year. I mean, that's the first NFL game he's played in all season long.
Yeah.
So that was great to see. But in the second half, it kind of unraveled. And all the feel-goods on offense kind of were taken away.
Well, the Saints, the issue with the Saints is like it's just the domino effect where we'll do some pop trivia. What do the Saints want to do on offense? Run the football, okay? They want to play slow. They want to hold the ball. They want to matriculate down the field. They want to run the football. They want to, dink and dunk until they get a deep shot. When the game is shortened and the Saints are down and the other team is holding the ball for however long they want, and the Saints are on the back end of these, 10-minute drives, all of a sudden it makes each play in each drive very, very important. Because if you allow a 10-minute drive and you get the ball back and you go 3 and out, and then you allow a 10-minute drive, all of a sudden you really can't run your offense. All of a sudden you're kind of out of what you want to do. And that's when we get into trouble, because then that's when Spencer Rattler can't play in the confines of the offense. He has to kind of like create and win the game. The wide receivers can't play in the confines of the offense. They have to go try and beat their man one-on-one. Oh, and the defense now knows we're throwing the football, so they can just pin their ears back and tee off. And all of that combined equals Rattler forcing throws, equals 3 and outs when, ugly 3 and outs. And it equals Rattler getting hit a lot of pressure, him getting hit, a lot of sacks, whatever. So that's what's happened. That's what has happened in the second half of games, where once the defense allows a couple of those 10-minute drives and the game gets out of hand, then we see the offense fall apart. And that happens virtually with almost every team. Like if you watch, the 49ers are a good example, where in the confines of their offense, the Niners are sweet, right? But once it's 21-3, and all of a sudden is Brock Purdy in the shotgun throwing the ball 40 times a game, they look pretty bad. And Brock Purdy's sailing throws and getting hit and running all over the place and throwing interceptions, and they just kind of fall apart. They just get away from what they want to do, and they completely fall apart. Buffalo is another good example, where Buffalo wants to run the football, dominate the line of scrimmage, hold the clock. If it's just Josh Allen in the shotgun, 4 wide, 5 wide, and Josh Allen is just throwing it 60 times, that's when they get into a little bit of trouble. Now, obviously, Josh Allen is amazing. Josh Allen is incredible. He could certainly win the game like that. But when you don't have great players and you're putting them in these like high leverage situations, they're going to struggle. And that's where the Saints have been the entire year. I've said that every single week. If it's 3rd and 7 and you're relying on Kevin Austin Jr. to beat his man and, catch a dig route for 8 yards for a first down, all the while you're relying on Connor McGovern and Udo to hold up, a blitz. Like when that's all happening, you don't really have a chance.
While Spencer Rattler was 10 of 12 in the first half, 83%, he was 10 out of 24 for 41% in the second half. He threw 2 interceptions. One of them was pretty meaningless, but the first one really changed the game. And what also played a part in that is he was back under pressure. In the first half, the Saints did a very nice job keeping him clean. In the second half, it looked more like the game against the Green Bay Packers. And he was just constantly under pressure, and it rattled him, and that's what we were worried about.
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of laid this out there, but it's the exact same situation. Like the Packers, once the game got out of hand, the Packers know, okay, well, they can't run. They're down. They're not going to run the football, so we can just kind of tee off. And then that's when a bad offensive line, all of a sudden, they're up against a blitz. And it's just, again, it's like, what's the worst thing Trevor Penning does? Pass block. Trevor Penning's been good this year, all things considered. But the last thing you want him doing is just setting up play after play and pass blocking. That's not going to benefit him. It doesn't benefit anyone to be in that situation. And unfortunately for the Saints, they're in that situation every game.
The interior of that defensive front for Las Vegas, even sans Max Crosby on the edge, they done some really nice things in the pass rush. And the interior of the Saints offensive line was, you were missing your center and your left guard. You had Shane Lemieux and Oliudu out there.
Yeah.
And it just didn't go well. I thought Taliesin Fuanga had a really rough day out at left tackle. And you saw Rattler be put under pressure, and it unraveled. Every positive you had on offense unraveled in the second half. The other thing defensively that really got exacerbated in the second half was the running game. It was bad all game, but y'all.
Yeah, again, like when a team is up, like the Raiders or the Packers or whatever, and they have no incentive to throw, and they want to just chew up clock, run the football, and you can't stop them, they're just going to keep doing it, and it's just going to get worse and worse. And then obviously you tire out. The more they're running plays, the more your defense is on the field, the more they get tired. It's a very simple kind of path that the Saints go on every single game, and it plays out the same way every single game. And it's a bunch of different reasons, but it's all pretty obvious what's going on here.
We looked at that and said the Saints have been bad against the run all year. The Raiders were near the bottom. I think they were like 28th or 29th in the NFL in rush offense. Amir Abdullah went for 115 in the game. 115 in the game.
Yeah.
That's his first 100-yard rushing game of his career. It was also the first 100-yard rushing game for a Raiders running back all season long. The Saints are abysmal at stopping the run and tackling. They actually did.
Yeah, this really, this is really the story of this season. And this is where it's gotten so much worse than anyone could have possibly thought it would get. Certain teams aren't good enough to take advantage of bad defenses, bad whatever. And it really doesn't show up that much. Like if you're facing early in the season, like when Bryce Young was really struggling, if he faces the 30th ranked pass defense, it really doesn't matter because he couldn't take advantage of it. The Saints are so bad at the run. Not only are teams taking advantage of it and having good games, they are having career games. Again, Amir Abdullah, Sean Tucker, third string, fourth string, fifth string running backs for the Packers. These guys are doing what they want to do. These guys are bad players. The Saints are allowing bad players to have career-defining moments against them every single week. The defense is, to me, the big story this season. I understand the offense. We have covered it literally once a day. At a certain point, when you're rolling out practice squad players and fifth round rookies and undrafted, okay, you're going to be bad. But this defense, for the most part, pretty healthy. For the most part, that core group of players is there. They have just gotten so bad so fast. And other players who have had a quote-unquote breakout season, like Brian Rizzis, he straight up is not interested in run defense. He is interested in rushing the passer, and that is it. It is crazy how bad the defense is. This defense has been a top 10-ish, top 15 defense for the last, since Breeze was here. I mean, since the last little bit of Breeze. And the Saints are far and away, the worst run defense, I mean, that you could even imagine. Certainly the worst run defense in the NFL. But, I would put this run defense up against virtually, go over the last couple of years. It doesn't get much worse than this. It does not.
Did a pretty good job on Brock Bowers. I mean, they held him right in check with what every other tight end's done against him this year, about 70 yards or so. I mean, he broke a bunch of records, but he was going to break those records regardless of who he played. They did fine there.
Holding Brock, Bowers had 7 catches on 7 targets for 80 yards or something? Again, he did whatever he wanted. Every time he was targeted, he caught it. I mean, that's crazy that is considered holding him in check. If they would have thrown Bowers the ball 14 times, he would have caught the ball 14 times. Thank God Antonio Pierce said, you know what, let's just throw it to him 7 times.
They couldn't tackle. They couldn't get off the field on third down. And then offensively, they could never establish a running game. And the pressure on the quarterback, your inability on the offensive line because of injuries throughout the season caught up to you there. And oh, by the way, you couldn't convert a third down. 1 out of 10. All in all.
Yeah, again, very simple math problem. We can't run the ball in first and second down. We're in third and longs. We are now asking on third and long on a passing down. We're now asking whatever combination of our wide receivers to convert a first down. Oh, and a 5th-round rookie quarterback to operate on third and long with a patchwork offensive line.
You lost by 15 on your home field to a 3-win team.
Yeah. Dominated.
And what that tells you is, you knew there was going to be a new head coach in New Orleans in 2025, and now you know that head coach is not going to be Darren Rizzi.
Yeah, I think Rizzi, yes, I agree. Yeah, Rizzi's done. And to no fault of his own, I don't think Bill Walsh could have got much out of this team, but it is what it is. And the Saints need a change. And the Saints this is rock bottom, pretty close, I would think. This has to be rock bottom. Right now, I know the product on the field isn't what was supposed to be the product, and it sort of kind of isn't. It's kind of a fake thing, where it's it's easy to look at this offense and say, man, we need to get better. We can't have Clyde Edwards-Helaire as our starting running back. Everyone agrees. Man, we got to get better. We can't have MVS and Dante Pettis and Kevin Austin Jr. as our 1, 2, and 3 wide receivers. Yeah, everyone agrees. We can't have Shane Lemieux as our starting center. No doubt. So it's on one hand, everyone understands the problem. And on one hand, the answers to those questions are in the building. Alvin Kamara is the answer to that. Eric McCoy is the answer to that. Taysom Hill is the answer to that. Chris Olave is the answer to that. Rashid Shaheed is the answer to that. Now, are those players elite level players that's going to drag this team to a Super Bowl? No. But, they're not I think right now, if the season restarted and the team that was on the field against the Raiders played 17 games, I think the Saints would go 0-17. So, from where I'm sitting, this is probably the worst team in the NFL as far as roster on the field right now. Not counting, obviously, Kamara and Olave and Shaheed and Carr and McCoy. If all those guys are playing, we don't go winless, obviously. But current team, I would honestly believe this team would go 0-17. So this is probably rock bottom, and Rizzi is going to certainly feel the consequence of that. Now, Kubiak is interesting because Mickey Loomis did say, or there was a report that Mickey Loomis wanted or preferred, or whatever the report said, someone that he knew. Well, that to me is obviously Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn is a defensive coordinator from Detroit. If Aaron Glenn was hired as the head coach, I think there is an outside chance that he could bring back Kubiak or retain Kubiak, I guess. I'm not saying it's for sure, but there's a much better chance if Glenn is the guy than if it's anyone else. If it's Vrabel or whatever, Cliff Kingsbury or Ben Johnson, LOL, or Bobby Slowick, LOL. Any of those guys, obviously Kubiak has gone pecan, and along with the entire staff. So I would say 90-ish% chance for the Saints. We will have a new head coach, a new offensive staff, a new defensive staff. Certainly the defensive staff. Joe Woods, I mean, my God. Like, lock him out of the building. Lock him out. So, a lot happening. A lot of change coming up.
I think Darren Rizzi did some really, really good things as the interim coach of the Saints here in 2024. He definitely provided a spark that is undeniable. Tyrann Mathieu, when he met with the media on Monday, said that spark is still there. There are still positives in the locker room, even not with the playoff. Guys are still happy to be there, and that's great. You had a nice win against the Falcons in Rizzi's first game where you just found a way to win. You had some fortune in there, too, with Younghoe Koo missing, 15 field goals or whatever. But you found a way to win, and that's great. Darren Rizzi pointed this out Monday when he met with the media. The soft tissue injuries, which have just been a pain in your ass for the better part of 2 years, have gone way down since he's taken over. That's great.
Hang the banner. Hang the banner. I can see it now. We've got the World Championship banner. We got the season ticket sellouts. We've got division championships. And then we can hang the banner that says soft tissue injuries gone down 2024. There you go. Hang the banner.
Well, what you can't do, the back-to-back blowouts is tough. The back-to-back dominating losses is tough. I give you 34-0 on the road at Green Bay. You really should never lose 34-0 to anybody in the NFL. But on the road, Green Bay, all your situation, I'll allow it. Losing by 15 at home to a 3-win team, that ain't it. Just, that ain't it. And that's not going to get him this job. So we will move on from that, and we will have plenty to talk about here when it comes to Saints and the head coaching job, because Mickey Loomis, there's reports out there from NFL media,
Ian
Rappaport, Tom Pelissero, that Mickey's going to hire a guy that he knows, and we're going to talk about that at start the 4 o'clock hour. But the one thing is for sure, what you saw Sunday is going to lead to a lot of change in New Orleans on that staff. Darren Rizzi, I hope he gets the interview, and I'm sure he will get an interview with the Saints. I hope he gets interviews elsewhere. Maybe there's a head coaching job out there for him, but I do not believe it is with the Saints after the last 2 weeks, and specifically after Sunday.
He is not getting hired as a head coach. That's not happening. Not this year. I mean, I think he could do it, but you don't do what you did. You don't do, this doesn't happen, and you don't get passed up on by the team that you are the interim coach, and then some other team says, yeah, you come be our head coach.
You can't lose by 15 on your home field to a 3-win team. That was one game that everybody thought, okay, you can win that one. Because you're not going to go win against the Bucs. And then what's going to happen is the Saints are going to finish 2024 with their worst record since 2005.
Yeah.
And boy, didn't that season bring on a lot of change. And this one will too. The difference is Sean Payton isn't walking through that door.
Well, you don't know that. I mean, obviously he could be. He obviously could be walking through that door. That is the whole thing. That's what I've been saying, is that we're on the precipice of this big change. Everyone keeps demanding change. Guys, it is happening. I just had a comment that was they asked, are we tanking? It's brother, we don't have a choice. We are organically tanking, and there's only one game left. Yes, we are a 14-point dog at Tampa Bay. We are, yes, the tank is on. Hey, do you think we're going to get a new head coach? Yes, I do. Hey, do you think we're going to get upgrades to these positions? Are these positions going to get addressed? Yes, like it is a absolute dumpster fire right now. Yes, we are standing at the front door of 2005. And it's up to Mickey, because he's not going to get fired. He's not going to get, he is basically an owner. It is up to him now. And he deserves a lot of criticism for Dennis Allen. Deserves a lot of criticism for Pete Carmichael. Deserves a lot of criticism for the salary cap. No doubt. No doubt. No doubt about it. And it is now up to him, back against the wall, to do what he did in 2005. He has to do what he did in 2005, find the right head coach, find the quarterback, maybe it's Carr, who knows, find the coach first, and then he also has to do what he did in 2016 and 2017 and nail the draft. And we've seen it with Detroit, we've seen it with Cincinnati, we've seen it with a lot of these teams who have been really bad for a really long time. You nail that, and your fortune can... We saw it with the Saints. You nail that, you nail these decision points, your fortune can change really, really quick.
Quick turnaround isn't walking through that door. You're in such a dire situation with your cap, with your roster, with everything of that nature. This is going to be a long rebuild. And the sooner they realize that, the sooner you can get back to winning. But
I'm not saying it's going to happen. But if you land the next Sean McVay and you land the next Jaden Daniels, it doesn't have to be a long rebuild. Like we have seen it where a generational player or a generational coach can turn things around pretty quick. The pressure is now on to find those people. Now, obviously, if you whiff on the head coaching hire and you whiff on the draft, it's going to be,
For a guy like Darren Rizzi, again, he did a lot of great things. I, for one, love Darren Rizzi. I think he was awesome. He's got great energy. He's the type of guy that anyone should want to play for, run through a brick wall. But the two games going the way they went, the last two games going the way they went, that can't happen. And, man, your worst record since 2005 when you were 3-13. That's not all on Darren Rizzi. The majority of that's on Dennis Allen. We understand that. And actually the Saints front office. But it's part of his resume when he sits down for the interview. So we'll see. Saints lose to the Raiders. They got one more game left, but man, it's all the same to you. I'm ready to turn the focus to the offseason and the coaching search and really find out what's next for this franchise.
All right, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Boom. Agree that Darren Rizzi is probably gone, and we're a week away. We can interview Vrabel, I think, now. So I mean, like we're in it. We're going to be through it all off season. We're going to be through the coaching search and all of that, and we're going to be covering it every damn day right here. So let me know in the comments below what you think. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.